The following is a special presentation of Retro Sports Network, home of the champions of the past, present, and or future. Hello there, my name is Ron Jeckert. Welcome to the program for this Sunday, April 2nd, 2023. No gameplay, I don't think, in this one, but I want to show you some of the things that Digital Diamond Baseball version 11, which was released for opening day 2023, is capable of doing. If you've watched Dave Gardner's channel, we had Mark Cohen on Saturday night, and we talked for a good couple hours, and 500 if you watched some of that. That's pretty impressive. As you know, the new game is out, and the new game includes a way for you to play Status Pro Baseball. And of course, I think the main draw, well, there's two main draws. One, Mark has created a pretty good baseball game that you can now configure. And second is the board game companion, which really has been improved from the initial Wowzers version 10 to the very incredible version 11. So, combination of different things. I've been playing Status Pro in the beta because Dave and I had the chance to do that. It actually liked the game quite a bit, and I'm surprised because fast action cards and baseball are two things I didn't necessarily think went well together. So at some point I'll play a game of Status Pro for you. So I was thinking, what do I want to do for a project? Because really what Digital Diamond does is give you a blank canvas to set up whatever real player scenarios that you want. I mean, it's not OOTP in that stretch. People aren't going to be aged. You really can't trade players, so it's not that kind of sandbox. But if someone handed you 50,000 cards or whatever for any team from 1927 to 2022, so 96 years of baseball, what could you possibly do with it? And so I'm going to show you what I did with it. Welcome to the RBJ League, which is my name. How about that? So what I did, and it was not easy, and I'll be talking with Mark about some of this stuff, is I took 12 teams that either are a favorite player, a favorite broadcaster, something that I figured that over the course of 162 games that I wouldn't lose as much interest regardless of the records of the teams. And so the Braves, we'll start, let me see if I can find one that just lists the teams here, and we'll go through it. So that's a quick look at the 12 teams. All right. Team editor. And again, I haven't figured out how the ballpark thing works quite yet, but since I intend to play this as an in-my-head replay, and I don't believe Status Pro has any ballpark modifications, and it's all kind of baked in anyway, and no one's really looking for accuracy when you're mixing and matching 12 different teams. So let's go through the teams and why I chose them. The 56 Yankees are first on the list, and because although that is Mickey Mantle's Triple Crown year, an incredible year that at 50 some odd homers, 130 RBIs, and a whopping batting average, I wanted Yogi Berra's best overall season. I always thought that Yogi was criminally underrated because he wasn't as good offensively or defensively as Johnny Bench or Pudge Rodriguez. Was better offensively than Mike Piazza, but because Yogi kind of downplayed his own role, and during the game of the weeks back in the 70s and 80s, Joe Garagiola, the Yogi-isms and all that, all the stories of Yogi, I think it took away from all as good of a player as Yogi was, and as a manager too. In fact, there's two Yogi squads on here, one as a player and one as a manager. And so for the 56 Yankees, I wanted to honor Yogi in that way. It is odd for a Red Sox fan to have a favorite Yankee, but if I had to have one, it would be Yogi Berra, and 56 was his year. I don't know why I'm moving the mouse. You can't see it. The second team on the list is the 1959 Milwaukee Braves. Again, huge fan of Henry Aaron. My earliest baseball memory is of him hitting 715. So, just like with Yogi, and looked up his best OPS plus within reason, 59 was a top year for Aaron with the Braves, which had never had a losing record in Milwaukee. And so I took the 59 Braves team. Also has Warren Spahn and Lou Burdette and Joe Adcock. It's a pretty loaded team, and should be quite fun to play. Team number 3 is a tribute to Tom Seaver. His 70 ERA plus was better. But the 73 Mets were not a bad team. It also has Rusty Staub, who I was a fan of growing up as a kid. So the combination of that, they're the team that fought their way back to win the division and go to the World Series. Maybe one of the most incredible Cinderella jobs ever after Gil Hodges died. Yogi Berra is the manager. And so again, I wanted Seaver in his prime, and the 73 Mets should get there. Not a lot of that World Series exists on videotape. The Mets forced the A's to 7 games in that series. 78 Sox, not a surprise. That was the team I really cut my teeth on. Jim Rice being my favorite player, and 78 was his piece de resistance season. Of course I'm going to go with that. There are 4 Red Sox teams here of the 12, and Rice's 78 Red Sox lead the way. It's the only team that Carl Yastrzemski's on in this league. I thought about adding a Ted Williams team, but I think 4 Red Sox teams are enough. So it's a team I remember. Yes, Mike Torres and Bob Stanley are going to pitch. And because it's not as played, Bill Lee is going to pitch his little arm off. 81 Astros, the only strike season team on this list. Nolan Ryan, along with Tom Seaver, my favorite pitchers growing up. And 81 was Ryan's best year. This team probably, over the course of a 162-game season, would have contended to go back to the NLCS. Remember, in real life, they lost in 5 to the Dodgers that year in the NLDS. Remember the split season. Ryan throws a no-hitter late in the year. The Astros at the Dome, good speed. And again, I thought about 87, but I think overall the 81 Astros were a better team. Ryan should have won the Cy Young in 81, and he should have won the Cy Young in 87. All right, the 85 Mets, the team that probably should have won the division but did not. I was 14 that fall, and Dwight Gooden had the magnificent year. And so I always had a healthy interest in Dwight Gooden's career. I'm not sure I could just force myself to play the 86 Mets, 162 games of them. So you get 85, you get a little bit of Rusty Staub, Darryl Strawberry, Gary Carter, Keith Hernandez. All the building blocks are in place, and Gooden is just one of those pitchers that you just don't want to mess with. Despite the fact that in my 85 Action PC replay, it really was the house of John Tudor. So the 85 Mets are for Gooden. The 88 Dodgers, I needed a Scully team. I listen to people in my head when I play games, and boy, I wasn't... 53 popped in my head because I think that was their best team that didn't win a World Series. But Orel Hershiser, that's the year of his streak. And so I kind of wanted Hershiser. Again, as a kid, he was a player that I genuinely liked. Of course, in a year that was so improbable, the impossible has happened. I wanted a season of Vinny. And as much as the recent Dodgers have been so good, well, the Mookie Betts hasn't really done all that well, all things considered, leaving from L.A. or from Boston. So I'm not sure how well they do. There's no real super teams in this thing. There's no real clunkers in this either. So Who knows how they'll do, but again, it's spending time with Vinny and there. Kirby Puckett was my favorite player after Jim Rice's peak, and his best OPS plus was not 87 or 91, it was 1988, coming off the World Series year. They weren't a bad team. Oakland was 13 games ahead of them in the standings, but it's Frank Viola and Kent Herbeck and pretty much, and a terrible Burt Blyleven, by the way, but pretty much most of the team that won in 87 with Kirby at its peak. Again, picked for Kirby so I could spend time with that. I was only going to do 10 teams, and I thought I'd had enough Red Sox teams. I'll tell you about the other one in a second, but by God, if you're going to do a greatest hits package from my lifetime, 2000 Pedro was a walking no-hitter. I don't know how he never did it, but he never did as anybody. But that year was the year that he has the best modern ERA plus in baseball history. 250 something. It's incredible. And yeah, I want 33 games of Pedro. I forgot if the team made the playoffs or not. 99 did, and of course, they'd have better success in later years. But this one just was, every time Pedro took the mound, it was must-see TV. And you notice I didn't take 2004 for the Red Sox or 2018 for the Red Sox. I took 2007 because that is David Ortiz's best OPS plus year. They also won the division and won the World Series. John Lester's on this team, too. Another favorite of mine. Manny is there. Dustin Pedroia is there. Kevin Youkilis is there. So a lot of that core from their championship runs is there. And I've got a metric ton of David Ortiz jerseys. And so I want an Ortiz season. Also, I can imagine Orsillo and Remy calling the games. 2017 Nationals, well, that's the team I covered from stem to stern. And I think that if they hadn't won the division by 18 gazillion games and took their foot off the throttle, that this team wins the World Series. I think it is better than the 19 team, except for eventually the Nationals get some bullpen help, because in the beginning part of the season, they had no bullpen help. But since we're not doing as played, the Coda Glover experiment doesn't need to happen. And I'm sorry about Sean Kelly. Last but not least, I wanted the best modern player in baseball, and so I took the 2018 Angels. Mike Trout, best player. Shohei Ohtani, his rookie year. And again, some of these are kind of almost also-ran teams, but I really wanted the chance to play with today's best player, and you really can't do better than Mike Trout. Oh yeah, by the way, Albert Pujols is there as well. So here's how I broke up the leagues. No rhyme or reason. The schedule generator needs 2 leagues, which I found kind of interesting to do a custom schedule. So I originally had 2 6-team divisions because I thought 12 would be a little unwieldy. So really AL and NL really there's just no rhyme or reason to it. They both have the DH and they both have the Ohtani rule. But the regular rules aren't there, so there's no ghost runners or anything like that. So here's how I split the teams. Kind of an appreciation and adulthood being the AL, the 56 Yankees, the 59 Braves, the 73 Mets, the 2007 Red Sox, the 2017 Nationals, and the 2018 Angels. The National League is more of my salad years as far as being a super baseball fan. The 78 Red Sox, of course. I thought there was 4 Red Sox teams. Apparently there's only 3. That's fine. The 81 Astros, so the 78 Red Sox for Rice, the 81 Astros for Ryan, 85 Mets for Gooden. And now, being older, I can certainly appreciate where that team was coming from. The 88 Dodgers, Gibby, of course, and of course Hershiser, and just a chance to listen to Vin Scully in your head do a few games. 88 Twins for Kirby Puckett, and 2,000 for Pedro. So each of these teams has a purpose. That's how I broke them up. There are no teams currently not in the division. It created a very nice schedule. There is interleague play. I really don't remember. Every game is 9 innings and all the IDs for that. So when does the season end? The season actually ends. Wow, October 15th. And I started this next Monday. So not quite sure how much of it's interleague. There is interleague in here. Not sure if that's the case for every series. I really wanted it to be to get a mix. And to make sure, again, I think it's important that every game has some sort of meaning to me. I think it's going to be easier to finish the project. It's about 900 games. And also, I want to be able to go from one version to the next. So that's how I set that up. Now, things that, again, the Board Game Companion and the Status Pro cards are just a gift, an absolute gift. And the fact that you can kind of mix and match pretty much any player in history from 27 forward. You can actually import from the Layman database if you wanted a dead ball team. I thought about doing a Ruth team, but it just, again, the only player I would know from 1920, which was by far his best season, he was the only one I would really know. And again, a lot of these others, I know at least some of the players, if not all of them. Either I'll watch them on television on Game of the Week or Monday Night Baseball, or I've read about them, or very curious about them. And some of the 73 Mets were there in 69 as well. So you can do that, and it will make Status Pro cards for everybody. And so it's all there. The only thing I need to have open is the charts. I can play all of it, fast action cards, and the board game commands there. So that was the easy part of wanting to do a project. I wanted to test what this game could do. Not really care about who the best team is and all that. It was a 2-hour process just to put the teams together. I wish that another feature for the future would be, instead of creating a shell team and then cutting and pasting a roster into it, that we could just, if the library was open, just go and click on a team and import it into your dummy league, into your new league, as opposed to having the extra steps. Because if you weren't quite sure, I think it took me 2 or 3 times to do this. I think the 56 Yankees got imported 2 or 3 couple times. One team was imported on top of the other, so I really had to slow down, take my time, create one team at a time, and then import the rosters in. Now, obviously, when you have a mixed era league like this, you can't do as played, and honestly, you're not looking for super statistical accuracy. You're looking at teams from starting in 1956 and going through 2018. It's a couple eras of baseball that are involved there. You just want plausible and you just want fun. And so, again, I'm not looking to test the engines here. I know that the engine is going to be solid, but creating the process was hard, even looking at the video of how to do it. So maybe an import a team function for a library you already have would be super, lock, stock, and barrel. I could never figure out how to import the ballparks. All the ballparks teams are there for that. I suppose I could go in by hand. Status Pro doesn't use ballpark effects. It's not the end of the world that they're not there. But for the life of me, I could not figure out how to do that. It says import the Seamheads database, and I just couldn't find it to put in. So everyone's got a neutral ballpark. Again, I'm not sure how many of these games, if any, I'll stream. It's just much more so for my own personal enjoyment to have something there to play. And So if it's just a generic background, it's just a generic background. I'm playing the game in my head. But I could see if someone was doing this and they wanted that would be quite that was quite difficult to do. I just couldn't figure it out. The schedule editor, I would be nice to have some sort of component if you only wanted one league. The original plan was for 8 teams, and then I got to 10, and then I got to 12. But it would be very cool to have an 8-team league with just one league. So I believe right now the schedule is you need to have 2 leagues unless there was something that I missed. No big deal. That's fine. I set it for interleague play. So those were the kind of the building or the things I kind of struggled with, but I did get it. I was able to set this all up, and I'm about ready to dig into what I hopefully will be a very fun project for me to do. 900 and some odd games. So this will obviously be more than 1 year. But again, being able to do this allows me to play my favorite players of all time, and just be comfortable during the process of playing it. So there hopefully won't be a lot of wasted games with teams that you kind of know. It's different from being a stock replay. I could see other people doing this, and one of the reasons why I wanted to do it was just to kind of stretch where the game is. I mean, we have all this available to us now. How easy is it to do? The logos went in fine. No problem with that. Got them all in. Player pictures I just took from Action PC, copied it in there. So again, for me, that's fine. And so that's that for that. As far as if you want me to do a video, I certainly will do a video on Status Pro. Dave Gardner and Al Red Sox fan have their first impressions of Digital Diamond Baseball up on their channels. I am very excited about what this game can do. Mark has created, I think, a game changer here for how people will play cards and dice games. Because if you can learn the commands and they're not that difficult to put in, you can play any game you might own. You can now play with this and adapt Mark's game to your liking. And so there's also special commands for payoff pitch and that. So I thought I would share that with you guys, and we will talk to you later. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good one.